It's currently the bye week, and really there's not much to talk about, and that's because obviously we don't have a game this Sunday. But there's one thing we all are looking forward to, which is a perfect time to bring these up, right? Yesterday we talked about a potential trade to the New York Giants to receive Dexter Lawrence to boost that defensive line just a little bit, make our defense that much more scarier. But the trade deadline is November 5th, and there's more rumors flying around, one of which I think all of us as fans, or most of us as fans, can all hop on board with. And that's a trade for a potential running back. Now, I say we don't necessarily need a trade for running back. There's other ones in free agency, like former Minnesota Viking Jerick McKinnon, that we can go sign. I think he still has some juice in the tank. I mean, he's won a Super Bowl with the Chiefs. I think he'd be a great addition. Maybe Leonard Fournette. But we have to look at the trade rumors that are speculating or that are all around the internet flying at us left and right. And today just happens to be a trade with the Carolina Panthers to receive running back Miles Sanders. I know. At first glance, I was like, yeah, no, we don't need Miles Sanders. But then I'm thinking about it. He had a pretty decent year or career with the Philadelphia Eagles. Not great by any means, but pretty solid, right? Him and Boston Scott, I think, were going 1 and 2 in the backfield for a little bit, and then I think he was behind. I think it was just them, and then he went to Carolina. He was the sole starter there for a season, and he really just hasn't been the same since. And now Chuba Hubbard is in the starting role, but Miles Sanders, I think, would be a great backup, maybe even a great third running back, especially with an Aaron Jones who has an injury history, who's currently listed as week to week. We have Ty Chandler. I'm not hopping off that train. I think Ty Chandler is a fantastic running back. I think just after witnessing that, maybe he's not a potential starting running back against the Jets, at least they have a really good defense. So who knows? I don't think that's a great sample size to really judge Ty Chandler off, but we still need a little bit more firepower. We can't just let Myles Gaskin go out there and try to be the savior. We just can't do that, right? So we need somebody else. I think Miles Sanders could fit that role really, really nice. So let's talk about Miles Sanders. Who is he? What has he done throughout his career? What's his current contract status? And why would this potentially make sense for the Minnesota Vikings? But before we do so, you're checking out this cool 23-inch backlit LED Minnesota Viking 3D logo. If you want one for yourself or a Christmas present or whatever you want to do, buy it for somebody. I don't care. There's a link in the description down below. All you have to do is hit that link and then use promo code VS30 for $30 off your purchase of this sweet Minnesota Vikings logo. I mean, it is beautiful. So back to Miles Sanders. So who is he? Well, Miles Sanders, yeah, he's a 27-year-old. He's in his second season of a 4-year deal worth $25.4 million. They paid him a lot, right? However, he is no longer the starter in Carolina, where Chuba Hubbard has usurped or taken over his role as the number one back. The Panthers may well be interested in getting off of Sanders' deal after a 1-4 start and his minimal usage rate throughout the first 5 games of the season. Okay, he has run the football just 27 times for 97 yards and 1 touchdown, and he's also caught 10 passes for 59 yards. So, not great. He hasn't looked good, but it is Carolina. We already know about the Panthers. They're not looking that solid this season, okay? With or without Bryce Young. They just don't look great. Now, they are a little bit better with Andy Dalton, but anyways, back on the Miles Sanders, track here. However, okay, Sanders' lack of production thus far in 2024 isn't necessarily an indicator that he can't help Minnesota. During his last year with the Philadelphia Eagles in 2022, the running back accumulated 1,269 rushing yards and 11 touchdowns on his way to a Pro Bowl. Remember, that was the year I was talking about. He balled out. He was fantastic, okay? He goes to Carolina. I mean, we've seen it with Adam Thielen, okay? He was with our organization for how long? Right? He was balling out. He was great. He was a number 2 receiver when Justin Jefferson got here. He goes down to Carolina. He's really nowhere to be found. So you tell me who the star is, right? I think Miles Sanders definitely has, not looked the greatest, but as a backup, I think he'd be pretty solid, especially behind Aaron Jones and Ty Chandler. Or if Aaron Jones needs some more time, Ty Chandler and him definitely could mix it up a little bit. I think this would be a pretty fantastic little, running back room, if you will. Now, I still think free agency is the way to go, but Sanders has a total of nearly 5,400 yards from scrimmage, 25 total touchdowns, and 4.7 yards per carry average over his 6-year career. That includes 78 regular season games and 54 starts. That's pretty good. Okay, so he's only not started 24 games in his career. I mean, this dude has been pretty solid. Okay. So I think as a backup, this would be a great addition. Now, why would Sanders make sense for the Minnesota Vikings? Why could this happen? Well, for starters, Sanders is 3 years younger than Aaron Jones, and he's under contract for just a little bit longer, though most of his guaranteed money is already in his pocket. Okay, so that's huge, right? So he's already got guaranteed money. He's under contract for longer. He's a little bit younger than Aaron Jones, but we could also just who knows, right? That contract situation would afford the Vikings flexibility to keep Sanders long term if we want it, or to move on following this season or ahead of 2025 trade deadline. So basically, what this would do is like, hey, we want Sanders. Let's trade away a late round pick, 6th round, 7th round, whatever. It depends. I'd have to go look at our current draft picks that we have slated for next year's draft. But it'd be an easy addition. We'd add the depth to our running back room, which is okay at this point in time. It's good when Aaron Jones is healthy, but when Aaron Jones is not healthy, you look at it, you're like, whoa, where I think a lot of us as fans have already echoed the sentiment, hey, we need a running back. We need another guy. And that's just because who knows, the status of Aaron Jones week by week. What's going to happen with his hip? Is he going to get another injury? Stuff like that. So, but bringing him in, I think would be a pretty decent execution for the Vikings. Just because I feel like he's able to produce. I think he'd be a nice 1-2 punch with Ty Chandler if need be. And if he takes over the number 2 role, so be it. I don't think we'd have to pay him a ton of money, but if we wanted to keep him for long term, we'd definitely have him for the next 2 years, maybe 3 years at this point. But if we wanted to part ways with him, right, we could easily have him for the rest of the season, say see you later, trade him away again, or maybe just void his contract, whatever the case. I'm not sure how the money thing of sides work, but we could just keep him for 1 year, just basically a half-year rental at this point in time, just to add a little bit more depth to our roster. I'd be okay with this move as long as it doesn't take too much to trade for Miles Sanders, which I doubt would be the case. I mean, he's a lot of money. We'd probably have to make Carolina eat some of it, which I believe they already have. But it would probably be a late, 6th round draft pick that it would take to get Miles Sanders on the roster. Again, I still believe we should go to free agency. There's a lot of running backs, or at least a handful of running backs that you could look at and be like, okay, that makes sense. Let's add them to our roster. Leonard Fournette, Jarrett McKinnon, Latavius Murray is still out there, even though he's a little bit old. Bring him back to the Vikes. The two that I'm looking at, other than this Miles Sanders trade, is definitely Leonard Fournette and Jarrett McKinnon, pending how much money they would want and how much cap space the Vikings currently have. So you guys let me know your thoughts on this potential trade rumor surrounding the Minnesota Vikings and the Carolina Panthers for Miles Sanders. Also, drop a like and subscribe to the channel. It'd be much appreciated. And don't forget to click that link in the description and get yourself one of these cool Minnesota Viking logo signs that's light up and 3D and stuff like that, and use promo code VS30. So have a great rest of your night, folks, and Skull Vikes.